Welcome to the Community Services Virtual Open House. Welcome to all. Before I launch into each individual program that is in the Community Services portfolio, I just want to introduce my co-presenters, Barb Heeg, who is the academic advisor for the School of Community Services. And I've also had four students volunteer to join us today to speak to the student experience. Kara and Pablo from the Social Service Worker Program. I also have Karen and Amy. They're both representing the Educational Assistant Special Needs Support Program. So I'm hoping that they will be able to answer your questions, as well as give some insights into what it's like to be a student at Niagara College. And before I actually get into my PowerPoint, I'm wondering if one of those four students would like to speak to their experience thus far at Niagara. And these are genuine remarks from students. They haven't been coached. They've just been provided with a couple of prompts in terms of responding to questions. So if there's anybody who would like to just share, please go ahead.
Hi.
Hi, Kara.
Hi, I'm Kara. I am a mature learner here at the college, and so maybe my experience might be a little bit different than what some others have had, but I can tell you that probably the best thing that I have for our program, for the Social Service Worker Program, is how amazing our faculty is. We are lucky enough to have actual working social workers as our teaching staff, and I think that speaks to the information that we get, that it's current, it's important. We get stories from our professors about what's happening in the world right now, and it's just a pretty amazing thing to have people that really are on the ground doing the job right now that can teach us, what their experiences have been like.
Thanks, Kara. Is there anyone who would like to speak now as well? And if not, I'll have you join in maybe in a few minutes. All right, not hearing anything, then I'll share with you some additional information about community services programs. And there's a couple of slides for each of the programs. These are the programs listed in community service: autism and behavioral science, which is a postgraduate certificate. I'm going to leave that information till the very last few slides of my presentation. We have the child and youth care program, which is an advanced diploma. So typically it's a three-year diploma. We have condensed our delivery into 6 consecutive terms. So students are start and finish within 2 years, but it still is an advanced diploma. We have the Educational Assistant Special Needs Support Program, which is a 2-year diploma, Early Childhood Education Diploma, the Recreation Therapy Program Diploma, and Social Service Worker, which again is a 2-year diploma. So all of these programs speak to potential students and current students who are interested in helping people overcome adversity and reach their full potential. Each of the programs have a unique way in addressing individual strengths and how to support people that are trying to manage in the community, whether they're marginalized or have a number of issues that make them vulnerable. So if you're someone who possesses excellent active listening skills, you have cultural competency or awareness, you're empathic and compassionate, if you possess strong interpersonal skills, if you understand the nature of human systems, if you look at people from a strength-based lens, if you have a strong ability to maintain personal boundaries, and I know our social service workers can speak to boundaries, and yet you're able to understand complex policies and procedures, then community service is likely a place for you. So Child and Youth Care is a program, again, the 3-year advanced diploma delivered in 6 consecutive terms that focuses on making a difference in the lives of children and youth. Their primary way to address the needs of child and youth care is through therapeutic programming, which students are introduced to in term 1 and then more specifically in term 2. We're looking at how to help children and youth grow into healthy young adults and further into adulthood. Some of the career opportunities for child and youth care. Our students complete 3 placements over their 6 terms. The first placement is really an exposure to the field, and we work with nonprofit organizations like the YMCA, Boys and Girls Club, the Raft, to introduce our students to children and youth. And the focus of that first placement is building rapport. The second placement occurs in a wide range of field placement agencies, most of which are listed under the career opportunities page here. So it could be any community agency, again, something like Nightlife or the Raft, residential treatment centers, a number of mental health agencies, social service agencies, any specialized day or residential camp, as well. Some students find employment in youth justice facilities or other like agencies. Part of the Child and Youth Care program in the first term, towards the end of September, we hold a leadership retreat for students. And these are some students from last year engaged in learning how to trust each other. It's really a great opportunity for students to get to know each other and the faculty and support staff in their first term. So you can see here they're building relationships and beginning to understand what it means to work in a team and to work with groups of people. Our faculty in the CYC program come from both the education sector and as well Jess is interested in at-risk youth and those kids that have been fostered or removed from their families. And Sherry, who's our field placement officer, her background is youth justice. So again, a wide range of people with varied experiences that they bring to the classroom. Because I can't see the chat line or the questions and answers, but certainly if there's any questions that you want me to pause and answer in the...
I think we're all good right now, but I will keep you posted.
Okay, great, thank you. And if any of you that are on the line, if there are some specific questions you'd like me to address, I'm happy to do. Right now, I'm just going to do an overview, but if there are additional questions, please let me know what you'd like to know about each of the programs. So the Educational Assistant Special Needs Support Program we refer to as EA SNS because the title is quite a mouthful. This program focuses on working with children, youth, and adults with exceptionalities. We support in this program people with special needs, making sure that they reach their full potential both in a classroom, in an education setting, but also in the developmental service worker sector. And so we, students are also learning how to support people who may be living in residential programs, who may need assistance in a day program. Our program, our EASNS program, is a unique program in the college sector. So there isn't another program in Ontario at any college that combines both the educational assistant learning outcomes and the developmental service sector learning outcomes. Typically, colleges have either an EA program or a DSW program. We have both, so students are prepared to work in both settings when they leave our program.
My name is Nathan, and I am able to speak with the aid of a computer, or with someone spelling out the letters of the alphabet, and I signal.
On the day that Nathan came, I wanted my students to see 2 things. Different ways to communicate with somebody, because Nathan has quadriplegic CP, cerebral palsy, and also that having cerebral palsy doesn't equate with having a low IQ.
Sitting here in silence and entering a room full of people who are having a conversation, I am sometimes not included, as I can be easily ignored without a voice. Some people may jump to the conclusion that I either have no desire to join the discussion, or that maybe I am not able to process thoughts. Quite to the contrary.
So I bring him in for 2 reasons. A lot of people judge people like Nathan with a low IQ. and that's not the case. And also to teach them a way that they can start teaching children, if they're working with them, with CP, how to communicate. So we teach a coding system. My students then get the hands-on experience.
He wants to say something, Dan, so he's just going to say whatever.
A, E,
Oh. Okay.
A,
It makes it real. When you just speak about it in class, they don't really connect the whole picture, or that it's not real, it's not hands-on. So my students at this time, when Nathan was in, their 4th term, so they've even done practicums, and they were nervous to come and try this coding system. So with somebody who's willing to teach them, I need to get them past that so that they can help an individual have a voice in the educational system by just bringing in a simple coding system that they can make out of cardboard. My whole course is not only to teach about the disabilities, but to consider where that individual is coming from.
So just before we get into the next little bit, we do have a quick question.
Okay.
So Rincy, I'm not sure if you want to open the Q&A there. They want to know the scope of working in this educational assistant field.
The scope, as I mentioned, students are trained or develop the skills and the knowledge to work in a school setting. So as an educational assistant, supporting students in a classroom at both the elementary and the high school level. And they're also provided with the skills and knowledge to work with adults with special needs who may be living in the community, who may be living with their families, who may be attending a day program for adults with special needs. And so I'm imagining that is the scope. I'm not sure if that addresses your question. And I'm wondering if maybe Amy or Karen, would you like to speak to the EA program while we're here?
Sure. Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, hi Karen.
Okay, hello. Yes, actually I'm in the 3rd semester. I've already done 2 placements. The first one was in an adult setting in a day program where I facilitated meetings and we brought some of the clients for their work option. Currently I'm in an elementary school in the communication class. So there is a variety of settings that you can gain experience. And like mentioned, it's better to gain the experience than just the theory.
So the EA SNS program is also a program that has 3 field placements. So most programs start field placement in the 2nd term, and EA SNS is not any different. Students are required to do a placement in an education setting and in an adult sector setting. And then their final placement in 4th term is one of their choice. So again, it can be educational environment again, or it can be an adult environment again. So it really allows you to explore whether you're sure that you want to be in one or the other, or you're looking to still be convinced that you want to be in one sector or the other. But students are again well prepared to work in either of those settings. So in terms of this, I've already described some of the career opportunities. As well, the faculty. We have some faculty that are certified teachers that have come from teaching in the education setting. We have a faculty member who's a psychometrist, and we have others who come from residential programs, so varied. We also have a full-time field placement officer who comes as well from the adult sector, who supports students in obtaining and securing and doing well in their field placements.
Carol, sorry to interrupt. That kind of ties into Miranda's question. She's asking if students are responsible for finding a placement.
Yeah. So in every program in community services, we have at least one field placement officer. In early childhood education, we do have 2 field placement officers, and it's their job to secure field placements for students to help you in choosing an appropriate setting for you, and then to support you throughout your field placement. They do that through visiting, through connecting virtually, being in touch with your host agency supervisor. So the field placement officers are really integral to the quality of the experiences that students have. And they're so well versed in the agencies that each program is connected to. They all come from that vocation. So in early childhood education, both Wendy and Jody, who are the field placement officers, they worked in childcare settings, yeah, they're so awesome. Yeah, the community services faculty and support are really incredible. Every program has the most passionate and creative and student-centered approach to students. And Pablo, do you want to speak to that? I know that you wanted to share some of your experiences about how you felt supported. Maybe this is a good segue for you to just drop on and share some of that.
Yeah, of course, I would love to. So I have a little blurb right now because I just can't really remember things off the top of my head. But I'm just going to start off by introducing myself. My name is Pablo Rodriguez. I am a 3rd-term social service worker student, and it's an honor to be speaking with you guys today. I've chosen to speak about why I personally feel supported by Niagara College staff, faculty, and services. And with that being said, I just want to recognize some of the amazing Niagara College staff and faculty that have supported me along my academic career. I'd like to start off with Ms. Barbara Heeg, who is the academic advisor for the School of Community Services, who has helped me, who's been an amazing help with my transfer credits from university over to college. Secondly, Ms. Allison Ryder from the Community and Health Studies, who has supported me in the development of my interview skills and ultimately developing the confidence that I need in my aptitude as a student and as a professional. Lastly, I'd like to speak on my communications professor, Ms. Wendy Ward, from the English department here at Niagara College, and my social service worker professor, Ms. Shay Hutchinson, who has supported me throughout my academic career. They have both supported my application in my current role as a developmental support worker for Bethesda Services, and who have recently honored me with their support and recommendation for the Margaret Christina Vanier Scholarship that recognizes any student in Niagara College who demonstrates academic excellence and community volunteer work at any program in Niagara College. I am really happy that I chose Niagara College to lay down my roots as a social service worker student and as a professional in the field. And I feel incredibly grateful for the relationships that I've been able to develop in my program with faculty and overall with my Niagara College family. So it's with my most sincere, heartfelt gratitude that I recommend any incoming student to make Niagara College their new home. Thank you.
So much, Pablo. Yeah, Pablo, were you saying now that you're currently employed and attending school? Is that what you were saying?
I am. I'm working full-time as a developmental support worker for Bethesda, and I'm in my 3rd term of social service work here at the college.
Excellent. And the faculty of the program are supporting you in doing both. And social service worker is currently online due to the pandemic, so that's working out well for you then.
100%. I feel like the faculty have been incredibly supportive in terms of just making sure that I am able to have some time to practice self-care, because that's incredibly important, especially with the climate that we're in today. And I feel like they've gone above and beyond to be able to support me because they understand the current circumstances that a lot of students find themselves in. So I definitely recommend the faculty, and they've been amazing throughout my experience.
Thanks so much, Pablo.
Thank you.
Okay, early childhood education, another 2-year diploma program. I should let you know as well, early childhood education, social service worker And our educational assistance special needs support program, they have 2 intakes. So each fall, we welcome a cohort of students. And then again, each winter for these 3 programs, we welcome a second cohort of students. Early childhood in the fall, there's about 120 students that enter our program. And then in the winter, another 35 enter the program. So I think the title is fairly self-explanatory here. Early childhood education focus on looking at the development of children from birth to age 12 in a number of settings and centers.
People that go into this program are definitely people that have a passion for kids, and they also have a passion for education, because there are days where you're gonna be exhausted and you have to be sweet and caring towards them. Like, you're taking care of somebody else's child, like their pride and joy at the end of the day, like that's their whole world. And so you should, care about them as much as like their parents care about them, because sometimes they see you maybe more than their parents.
The Early Childhood Education program here at Niagara College has 2 options. We have a 2-year program where the students will complete 4 placements concurrently while they're attending their classes, as well as we have an advanced stream for students that have completed a Bachelor of Education in the primary junior focus, who can complete their early childhood education in 1 year and complete 2 placements within their program.
As the placements go on, you kind of learn who you are and how you want to be an educator and all of that, and how you want people to perceive who you are and how you want to act around the kids, because everybody's different. And I think that's what's so great. At the end of my placement, we were so different, the EC that I was working with and me, but it was nice because it actually complemented each other.
So we do have our students complete placements every term. We are one of the few colleges in Ontario that are continuing to do this. So every assignment, every activity that they have to do in placement, they're doing in the classroom with a professor who is marking them, evaluating them, giving them feedback, so they have the most confidence going out and doing that in placements.
This work that you're going to do today was really inspired by you, and that is really exciting for me. But today you're going to make a representation of what you believe children deserve to be successful in their experiences, and so I'm really excited that we're going to do that today.
I've loved each one of the classes. I've gained so much knowledge. You don't realize at the time that you're learning all this new stuff, and then it's somehow already absorbed in your brain. So all the things that you're learning about the code of ethics and stuff, you had been living in for the last 6 weeks when you were in placement, or the last year that you were in placement. It's gonna be easier to learn things because now you have the experience from the daycare, and now you're applying it to your classes.
We know the research supports what we're doing, and we know the advantages of teaching from inquiry-based learning and following children's leads. However, incorporating that piece around the relationship, that really, we want to teach children, period. Right? We want to be able to grow their brains. We know the most rapid brain development happens between 0 and 6. So every interaction that we have with children between 0 and 6 is having an impact on their brain development.
This program, you're always learning. That's what I love about it. Everything's always changing, so you have to be able to adapt to all the new knowledge that's being gained in the field.
One of the baselines is we want them to be continual learners, lifelong learners. So we put that into all our classes in terms of think about what sparks you and use that, right? Because you want to end up somewhere where you love.
I remember my sister always said, she goes, it doesn't matter how much money you're making at the end of the day if you don't love what you're doing every day, because that's what you're doing all day long.
The Early Childhood Education Program, third-term students do a placement in a full-day kindergarten class as well. And the other 3 placements occur in other childcare settings. I think most everybody's probably familiar with some of the career opportunities in CEAT. Again, in full-day kindergarten, in Board of Ed, camps, childcare centers, extended before and after school programs, family and children's agencies, family resource centers, And we have students as well that will go on to create and deliver private home care as well, child care. Recreation therapy is also a program in community services. Again, supporting, very relationship focused, supporting people to develop their full potential using recreation as the vehicle to do that. I think probably one of the best ways to describe recreation therapy is through the video I'm about to show you. Recreation therapy, again, is a 2-year program with a fast track and a regular stream. So regular stream is a fall winter place schedule, and then with the intensive is a fall, winter, spring, summer, fall again. So students are here for a 1.5 years doing the 2-year diploma. Recreation therapy has 3 placements. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that after this video.
This is our Pen Pal project, which is a major assignment that's connected with our Applied Positive Strategies course in therapeutic recreation. The very first week of the course, I told them about the project and how they were going to be writing a letter to a resident long-term care, and excitement, enthusiasm, they were pumped.
We found out at the beginning of the term that we were going to be writing with a pen pal for a course of 4 weeks. Starting off, they wrote us a letter about themselves, and then from there we learned to connect with them.
In the letters, the kids asked me questions about my life, and I asked questions about their life, and we just spoke to each other like that.
So the idea was to bring 2 generations together through a pen pal project, putting pen to paper, something that our residents are very familiar with as a past practice in the way that they used to communicate with loved ones, family, and friends generations ago.
So what I think it does is a couple things. I think it addresses some of the soft skills. You know, we're preparing them with all the hard skills, all the practical things to do when they're out in the field, but the human connection piece, the ability to effectively communicate with people. So a lot more of those, you know, things that you don't teach out of a textbook.
I always knew I wanted to work with seniors, but when you actually get to work with them while learning, everything comes together so much more because you get the background of the education, but you also get to apply it. I feel so good about this one assignment, and to know that this is going to be my job in the future, I'm ecstatic. Like I couldn't ask for a better field to be in, knowing that this is how I'm going to feel on a daily basis, that I'm making other people feel this way.
And I wouldn't have thought that kids of this age would be interested in what an 87-year-old has got to say. And it made me feel that life was worth living again.
So certainly in recreation therapy, many students come in and are interested in working with seniors or older adults, but there's also a number of other career opportunities. Recreation therapy graduates work in all types of different settings across the age span. So they may be working with children in a rehab, education or recreation setting. They could be working with children and youth out of doors. They could be working with adults who are about to retire, or they may be working with older adults living at home or in residential settings as well, long-term care homes. We do have students as well that work in municipal recreation as a recreation therapist. A number of different sort of job titles fall under recreation therapy or therapeutic recreation. So you probably have been in touch with a recreation therapist and not likely known it. I just want to speak for a second to what the recreation therapy third term students are currently doing. So they have a 100-hour field placement opportunity this fall. And again, because of the pandemic, we've had to really be creative about what we're doing and with students to make sure that they're achieving the learning outcomes and having a really meaningful experience. So we pursued a grant through the United Way to receive, we received $55,000. And with that money, we purchased 70 iPads, as well as some supplies for students to create additional resources for students. But with the iPads, what we've done is worked with the regional municipality of Niagara and their 9 long-term care homes. And so we've been connecting with residents virtually through that initiative. And at the end of this term with our 50 students, we believe that we'll have 5,600 virtual interactions with residents who wouldn't have been given that opportunity without, without the generosity of the United Way and the innovation and just pure grit of our faculty in recreation therapy. So we're really excited that we've been able to alleviate some of the loneliness and isolation that these long-term care residents have been feeling since March. I forgot to tell you as well about the really incredible things that the early childhood education program has done too. They have created for students in this term, because students weren't permitted to go into early year centers, they've created a virtual preschool. And that has just been distributed across the college, and it will be done as well into the community. Students are uploading a number of videos for people who want to connect with those to support their kids at home, employees who have young children that they want to continue with their learning. Students have uploaded all sorts of videos, so really incredible experience as well. It's going to be really beneficial. So our social service worker program, again, as I said earlier, a fall intake and a winter intake. It's a small program, 60 students enter in the fall, 35 in the winter. And the social service worker, as I think it was Kara that said, we have social workers who are faculty and a support, a field placement support officer who is a graduate of the SSW program. So the focus of social worker program, the social service worker program is about counseling. Students learn how to counsel in individually and also in group settings, and we do that by taping students who are engaged in these mock counseling sessions. I don't know if any social service worker wants to speak to the angst in the beginning and how your confidence has grown across the terms with respect to having your counseling sessions taped and then shared with your class for feedback.
Well, I can actually talk about that a little bit. You're freaking out. I'm not going to lie. But it's such an amazing learning experience to not just sit down across from someone who is talking to you about some major issue in their life, but also to practice the tools that you're given in class and figure out how that feels to say the things that you need to say, to pick up on the cues from a potential client. And then that sense of empowerment that you get when you get through that taping and you sit there and you watch your video and you're like, oh, I remember to say that. And oh, I totally picked up on that. And then your other students are giving you feedback, and your professor, who is, as I said, a working social worker, is giving you amazing feedback. It's a wonderful experience.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I think we are one of the few schools that use taping as a way to apply the learning for students. So social service worker students are engaged in a lot of community service agencies and organizations with a focus on providing social support. And some of the career opportunities for social work students our social service work students is addictions, community health, correctional facilities, child welfare agencies, hospital, medical clinics, school, our youth settings, and senior homes as well. The social service worker students also have 3 field placement experiences in their second, third, and fourth terms. And most programs as well, but the social service worker program definitely supports students who are working in the field and attending school. In the fourth term, we have a lot of students that are hired after their third term placement. And so students sign some paperwork, are given some information so that they can make an informed decision, but they're supported if they find employment at the end of third term and it has really launched them into their career. Then students don't necessarily have to come on campus to attend classes. They're supported to complete their assignments and to work in a self-directed and independent way to finish their fourth term requirements so that they can stay employed and still complete their diploma. So the Autism and Behavioral Science program is a 1-year post-diploma program. So in order to gain admission into this program, which we refer to as ABS, you need to have a degree or diploma and some experience with individuals on the autism spectrum. And so this is a very sort of science research based program where they're using applied behavioral analysis to make change in individuals, and they work both with children and adults with ASD. Students who graduate this program work mostly as behavioral technicians in educational environments, in treatment centers, in nonprofit organizations that support kids and families with autism. They also work in private clinics. They work at home and school boards. I think I mentioned that as well. So this program is 2 terms, 1 fall term, 1 winter term graduate, and in those 2 terms, they complete 2 field placements. Be World Ready is a program that is supported through community services as well. Last year, anyway, prior to March, we had a number of students, 45 students in community services. So students from across all of our programs attend Amsterdam in the Be World Ready program. So this is a week-long adventure that usually takes place in the fall reading week. Or in the winter break, and students sign up, they pay their fee, and then they're supported by faculty from community services to explore various places and become culturally competent. And then last slide here is also, there's a number of scholarships available for community and health studies students. You can see for each of the programs here. Some are for generally any student who's in community services, but there are a number of scholarships available for students who fit the criteria and come from either a specific program or community services in general. And I know that I usually get asked this question, so I'm sharing this with you. And as well, if you're interested in connecting directly with one of the coordinators of each of the programs, then their contact information is on this slide. Jen White is with Child and Youth Care, Ange is with ECE, Lori is the EASNS coordinator, Christine Wilkinson is a coordinator of recreation therapy, Kim Chapman for social service worker, and Taryn Walsh, who is currently on a maternity leave, but I could answer any of your questions if you would like to email me. So that concludes my presentation. I'm not sure if there's another one of our students who wants to wrap this up, share any additional.
There's actually just a handful of questions. I don't know if we want to just answer those live. There's a handful that you maybe, I think we've probably answered them, but they may have joined late, so it may just be a little bit of a repeat.
Okay, is it best if I just go to the Q&A and look at them?
Yeah, you can go through the Q&A there, and then I'm not sure if it's best to provide links at some points, but most of them can probably be answered live.
Okay. So the first question here, do we get stipend during field placement? And I'm imagining that stipend is payment for field placement. No, there is no payment associated with field placement. We do support you if you're working in the field. So if you are currently working in a field and you're attending school and your employment is related to the learning outcomes of a particular field placement, then we do support you in that way if everything is appropriate. So I'm imagining that would be the answer to the stipend question. Yeah, so a good question. Currently this fall, all the programs have moved to an online format. In the winter term, we're returning at least a little bit to face-to-face at the college. We're moving to face-to-face for most placements in areas where we haven't done face-to-face for this fall. And the only program that won't have some face-to-face in the winter is our recreation therapy program. But yeah, we're hoping to transition as we move forward and where we can, for sure, for each of the programs. So they're not typically delivered online. They do often have a hybrid component, or there may be some courses connected to each program that may be fully online, but typically our human service programs are with a greater number of humans face-to-face. Child and youth work program competitive. Yes, it is often a program that is waitlisted, although not to the same extent as the social service worker program is waitlisted. Mavis, do you want to say anything in addition to that one?
I know that, like, at this point, child and youth isn't on our competitive list, but it does fluctuate depending on what applicants we get.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a really tough, like, hard, concrete answer to give. But definitely, as long as you are completing those admission requirements, so will allow you to meet, you know, to be competitive with the rest of the applicants there.
Okay, career opportunities for early childhood education. So again, the focus of early childhood education on kids age 0 to 12. And so anywhere you would find those kids would be career opportunities. We have students that work in sectors, so in the private sector for daycare, again, full kindergarten classes. The nonprofit sector, we have students who work for any early years center, any daycare center, all of those types of settings. Where the placements for ECE are similar. Everywhere that you would find employment in ECE, the only place that we don't do a placement is in private daycares or home daycares, but anywhere else students are engaged. What resources are students using for online learning? The college has, oh gosh, I couldn't even list them all. There's a number of resources and more that come out all the time in terms of helping students engage in online learning. And Barb Heeg is an excellent resource. Our Health, Wellness, and Accessibility Office has all sorts of things going on. SAC has a number of programs. Mavis, I don't know if you can.
We also have like our peer tutoring program.
Yeah.
So I know that's transferred online as well. So that's a great opportunity because a lot of these students have completed the same courses as you, so they'll be able to help you out that way as well.
Mm-hmm. And I know there's probably some links that can be connected as well. I'm sure there's some sessions today on some of the services for students. And then from Alexa, is the ES&S program harder to get into the fall or winter? The fall intake is a little bit larger, typically around 60 or 70 students, where the winter intake is smaller. So given that, it may be a little bit easier to get into a fall session, but I don't, typically students don't have difficulty getting into EAS&S. I wanted to let you know as well that with the EAS&S program, the number of jobs that are available at the beginning of this fall, we're really connected to both the developmental service sector field and the educational sector field. In the fall, the Catholic Board reached out. They were looking for 40 graduates to work as educational assistants. And the developmental service worker sector also reaching out to say, we are prepared to pay students to do their placement with us in order to get the resources we need in those agencies. So if you're looking for the quickest perhaps route to employment, I think the EAS&S program right now is that. We can hardly meet the demand from those sectors looking for graduates. And no, we don't have a communicative disorders assistant program, and I have not heard that there would be any plans to bring that in, although has been discussions, but no.
Okay. So that concludes all the questions. Yeah, I don't know if it's a great opportunity for the students to maybe share their experience.
Is Amy on the line? Amy, do you?
Yes, I didn't correct you earlier, but I'm actually in the child and youth care program.
Sorry about that.
That's okay, no worries. I know it's all closely intertwined. And working with Ali too kind of complicates things, but, or not complicates, but just makes things interesting. But I'm term 4, so 2 more terms and I'll be done. I just can't believe I'm more than halfway through the program. It goes by fast. When I started this, so child and youth care is the program that goes from like straight through summer. And I did not experience missing summer at all. But by then we were online anyway. And with the online learning, we were given the opportunity, like our profs would assign everything. The beginning of the week, you had the whole week to do it, which made our summer learning a lot easier. As for the supports, everyone in the community services is very approachable. It didn't matter if it was any of my instructors or if it was anyone else. Actually, I found most of the instructors, whether they were part of our program, are very approachable. Same with SAC, the health and wellness. Yeah, that's my experience so far.
As a student who's also been employed as a student, do you want to speak to that as well?
Yes, so I was employed for my first 2 terms in the ATAC room where the ECE, early childhood educators, were able to come in and get kits to take to placement, like games, learning games and whatnot. So I just oversaw that and helped Allison Ryder as much as I could with her simulation programs. Tried to think of new therapeutic learning activities for students. I had a list going because they would make requests for certain kits that we didn't have. So I still have that list, and I'm going to pass that on to Ali to see if she can make those up. It was a great experience though, working on campus. It was so much easier because I'm also a single mom, just to have everything done in one spot and then go home and then deal with home life, right? So if you have the opportunity to work on campus, I recommend it. And they work with you. If you're an OSAP student, they make sure the financial aid department makes sure you can do it all. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Amy. There's another question from Georgia. Is it hard to be employed while doing any one of the programs? It's actually quite amazing how many students are juggling families, employment, and school. And so it certainly is probably more typical for students to be working and going to school. And I feel like those stats have increased as long as I've been at the college. So as long as you're organized, I think that's definitely the key. You have some strong time management skills, then you can manage both. Typically, there's about 18 hours worth of courses each week for each program. And if you sort of double that, that probably gives you a good sense of the time commitment for school. So if you have 18 hours, you're looking at coming to school is almost a full-time job. So I wouldn't recommend a full-time job, full-time employment, but certainly many students do that.
Alrighty. I think that's all of the questions. I know there's a couple minutes left of today's programming, so we won't keep you guys too long. There's definitely opportunities for you to still do a virtual tour or connect to any of our services. So please feel free to do so, but thank you so much for joining us today, everybody.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here.